What are we discussing on today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast? Should the D-backs go all in on the St. Louis Cardinals closer and regrading the D-backs offseason 1 month in?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist, and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there, you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription required and compatible controller required as well. On today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, we're going to be discussing if the D-backs should go all in the St. Louis Cardinals closer Ryan Helsley. I don't really know how to say his name that correctly. It's one of those names that's hard for me to pronounce. Regrading the D-backs offseason now that April is almost done, and then previewing the D-backs versus Mets series. So a whole bunch I want to talk to you guys about on today's podcast. But first, I want to say thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. One of those platforms is YouTube. Please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. I've been going live Sunday through Thursday after D-backs games, so if you want to see me live, record the podcast. It's an interactive show. You could drop comments in the YouTube comment section. I'll read them live. So follow me on YouTube, hit that little bell so you get notified when I go live, or follow me on social media at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or look up Locked On Diamondbacks both Twitter and Instagram because I always tweet out before I go live on my socials. So follow me wherever you're streaming podcasts. But now let's get into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, and let's discuss if the D-backs should go all in on the closer for the St. Louis Cardinals, Ryan Helsley, because it sounds like the D-backs reportedly have interest once again. This was one of their targets in the offseason, but he's so good, so talented. He's a guy that's going to be maybe a little expensive to get. He is a pending free agent, but a guy that a lot of teams would be interested in acquiring if they knew his services were available. And if they are available, let's ask the question if the D-backs should go after Helsley. Would it be smart for the D-backs to go all in on Ryan? Because in my opinion, it is a big, fat yes. I believe the D-backs should do whatever it takes to get Ryan Helsley, sans giving up Jordan Lawler. Like, if it doesn't take Jordan Lawler or a top prospect to get the deal done, I would do it for Ryan. He is that talented. He's that good of a closer. I think the D-backs need him. Yes, he is going to be a free agent at the end of the season, but because of that reason, I don't think he's going to be too expensive. We see a lot of times with players this talented who are still in the prime of their career, like if they're a pending free agent, the price tag usually isn't as bad. You can look at like the Manny Machado deals. Like, you're still giving up stuff, but the amount of stuff it takes to give up for a player that you're not guaranteed to re-sign or have a future with is going to be dramatically less. And if you're the team, it's like, I could lose this player for nothing, or I can accept the deal right in front of me. So you have leverage if you're the Arizona Diamondbacks, especially if a team like the St. Louis Cardinals is struggling and not doing well. It's like you're just going to hold on to your closer that a lot of people want just because, like, the Cardinals are 12-16. I don't think they're going to make it to the postseason. Like, there's not really a lot of point in keeping Helsley and then letting him walk in free agency for nothing. And so a lot of times it's just better to get something back than nothing back if you're the franchise. And so because of his pending free agency, I think that would lower the price tag on Ryan a little bit. And so because of that, I think the D-backs should go all in on acquiring Ryan Helsley this season. The first big reason why the D-backs should do it is because you look at this D-backs bullpen, all of a sudden, there's a lot of question marks surrounding the health of the pen. AJ Puck, we haven't gotten a lot of good news out of him. I'll tell you guys what, I'm no doctor, but a little insight from watching sports over the years. If a pitcher goes to get an MRI done and then afterwards, he's like, afterwards, I can't say that word. They can't say, so it's like trying to say terrible, right? I can't say that word. Afterwards, if AJ Puck go gets that initial opinion and then right after he's like, you know what? Let me get a third opinion from guys who are known for the Tommy John surgery. That's not a good look. Justin Martinez, I've given a lot of pushback on Torey Lovell this season for his utilization on the bullpen. And Justin Martinez, I'm always like, why doesn't he throw J Mart more? Well, after seeing his last two outings, I can understand why. There's clearly arm fatigue with J Mart. The velocity was sitting around 97. For most pitchers in baseball, they would be ecstatic if their fastball averaged 97. But for J Mart, that is ticks off his velo. That is 3-4 miles per hour off his average velocity. And so that is concerning when looking at J Mart. Ginkel's still coming back from injury. Kendall Graveman's still coming back from injury. Like, there's just a lot of questions surrounding both the short-term and the long-term health for the D-backs. And so in 2025, getting a dominant closer like Helsley could help mitigate some of those concerns when it comes to health. And then the second big reason is he straight up is nasty. Like, talent reigns supreme in most situations. And in this situation, Ryan Helsley is supremely talented. He's one of the best closers in baseball. And outside the fact that your bullpen is a little bit hurt, a little bit injured, some question marks with the health, this dude is just straight up one of the best relievers in Major League Baseball. And adding him to the bullpen would just increase the ceiling by so much. I thought J Mart was like one of the best relievers in baseball, and I still think J Mart's one of the best relievers in baseball. But acquiring Ryan Helsley from the Cardinals is like the Lakers getting Luka Doncic from the Mavericks. Like, LeBron, J Mart, they're elite, they're incredible, but Helsley and Luka, they're that guy, they're that dude. And so, as much as we believe in J Mart as the closer of the future and all that, if you acquire Ryan Helsley, he is the closer of the right now, of the present. He is that guy because of his track record, his talent. He's proven enough to be the D-back closer, and I don't think that would be a question. I don't think it would be Torey Lovell saying, hey, should I throw Ryan Helsley like in the seventh today? No. If you acquire him, I don't think there's any conversations going forward about who the D-backs closer should be. So for another reason why we should acquire him, just so we could clean up the conversation and the cloud of who is going to be the D-backs closer, it's going to be Ryan Helsley going forward. And then imagine an eighth inning where you bring in Justin Martinez, like your eighth, ninth combination now with J Mart, Ryan Helsley, and then your 6-7 combination in high leverage moments is Ginkel, Beeks, Ryan Thompson. Like, I still love that. Shelby Miller still in the mix as well. Like, that is a very strong bullpen. Two guys in the back end that could average 100 on their fastball. Got Beeks that could throw pretty hard. Ginkel could hit 97. Miller could hit 97. Ryan Nelson could hit 97. Graveman throws pretty hard. Ryan Thompson's like your ground ball guy. Beeks is your lefty specialist. Still got guys like Juan Murillo and Dre Jameson waiting in the wings. Like, I would look at this rotation and still say, not rotation, I would still look at this bullpen and say it's still one of the best that we've ever seen, since covering this podcast, and still one of the better ones in the National League. Even with AJ Puck going out, if you have Helsley, J Mart, Ginkel, Beeks, Thompson, Miller, Ryan Nelson, Graveman, with Murillo and Dre Jameson on the bench, that is a pretty deep bullpen. I think Helsley also helps define roles for everyone in the D-backs bullpen, which I think they desperately need as well. So just looking at all the reasons, laying it all down, from the ceiling of the bullpen to the questionable health, I just think there's a lot of reasons that make sense for the Arizona Diamondbacks to go all in on the St. Louis Cardinals closer. Now we'll regrade the D-backs offseason in segment number 2. And if you're thinking about placing a little wager down on an upcoming Arizona Diamondbacks game, then the best place to do that is going to be FanDuel because the NBA playoffs are here and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if you win. I love FanDuel because they make betting so easy. And my favorite thing on FanDuel is the same game parlay. I could take the D-backs money line. I could take the over on runs. When that two-leg hits, it brings a big smile to my face because best believe a lot of times when the D-backs win, they're going to score a lot of runs and they're probably going to give up a lot of runs as well. So if you want a big smile on your face, like me, when I get my two-leg parlay to hit and it puts instant cash in my pocket, if you want that same feeling, don't miss out. Head to fanduel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, back here on the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. And now let's regrade the D-backs offseason 1 month in because there's really 3 big moves from the D-backs offseason. Like there were some where they let some guys go, like Kevin Newman. I'm not really going to talk about how should we grade Kevin Newman leaving the D-backs in free agency. Like that's not really one we're going to hit. Or like picking up Garrett Hampson, minor league like signing. Jalen Beeks even was like our random waiver wire find. Like we're not really going to grade those offseason moves. We're going to grade the big ones from the offseason. And the first one we need to discuss is letting Christian Walker leave and then trading for Josh Naylor. I think we have to grade it like that. Both the trade for Josh Naylor, how he's performed for the D-backs, but also how has he performed in comparison to Christian Walker leaving? Because when I first saw that reported contract, Walker to the Astros, I was like, how did the D-backs not offer that? 3 years, $60 million. I was saying repeatedly on the podcast, anything less than $20 million annually, especially if it's on a short-term contract, the D-backs need to do that. I was willing to go up to like 3 years, 75 for Christian Walker, ended up coming on a lower price tag than that. And so I was like a guy with 30 plus home run potential, 100 plus RBIs, gold glove defense. Like we're going to let him walk away for that price tag. I was pretty upset. I was pretty disappointed in the D-backs because I thought it was definitely a deal that was, in terms of the value, very respectable to the market of Christian Walker, but I also didn't think it broke the bank. Like, I thought it was a win-win deal for both sides when I look at that contract with the Houston Astros. And when saying that, I'm not saying I was upset when the D-backs acquired Josh Naylor because on its face value, Slade Ciccone for Josh Naylor, I was like, Slade's not a good pitcher. So just in a vacuum, that's going to be a fleece of a trade. Naylor, way younger than Christian Walker, upside on the rise when you look at trajectory, coming off an all-star appearance, really good the last couple of years in both average and power and RBI production. Like you could definitely make the case going to the season like, okay, I made the case. Like, yeah, if you actually look at WRC plus the last couple of years, Josh Naylor has actually been better than Christian Walker. But still, if you told me who would I rather have entering 2025, I still would have picked Christian Walker because a full season of health, I would have still thought the traditional stat line would have looked better for Christian Walker with more RBIs, more home runs, and of course, better defense. But I would have told you it would have been close entering 2025. I would have predicted Josh Naylor giving you 85%, 90% of the production of a Christian Walker. But so far this season, it hasn't been close. The transaction of letting Walker leave and bring in Josh Naylor has been an A move for the D-backs. You could even make the argument an A plus because Josh Naylor has been so incredible for Arizona all season long as an offensive bat. Obviously, his defense is a little bit shaky, but offensively, his walk rate and his strikeout rate at this point on the off day I'm recording this, 10.7% for both. So he's striking out at the same rate he's walking. He's got a 318 average, almost a 900 OPS, a 146 WRC plus. He's been crushing it. The exit velo is incredible. The hard hit percentage is fantastic. So, like, he's done everything you would want offensively. And then comparing that to Christian Walker, who has a 32% strikeout rate, a 189 average, a 77 WRC plus, like, that's been a major fleece of a transaction by the D-backs to bring in Josh Naylor and let Christian Walker walk in free agency. Let Walker walk. I was a guy that thought it was a bad move, especially after looking at the contract of Christian Walker. I thought it was a fine value that the D-backs could have matched, but bringing in Josh Naylor has been a massive upgrade for what we've seen in 2025. So good job by the D-backs. That's an A move. The next one, letting Jock Peterson leave, but just basically elevating Pavin Smith into that DH role and saying, listen, we know Jock Peterson's coming off a fantastic season where he had a 151 WRC plus. Like the WRC plus for Jock Peterson last year is still higher than the WRC plus Josh Naylor's putting up this season. And we know how good Naylor has been this season, but by WRC plus, they're telling you Jock Peterson's 2024 is even better. And even with that being said, even seeing how good Jock was for us last year, because he was fantastic. He had a 900 OPS. He had monster home runs, 23 bombs in 132 games, and some just absolute clutch moments, some big pimping home runs, some really just fun moments with Jock Peterson. The D-backs said, we'll let you go. A DH who, again, not going to break the bank. He got like a 2-year, like 18 million a year contract by the Rangers, like nothing insane, especially when you look at what he did for the D-backs last year. And we said, you know what? We're going to take that 60 game sample size of Pavin Smith, who we know historically can hit for a high average, has no slug, has no defense, really as a major leaguer doesn't have a lot of skill that you could bet on, that that you could say, you know what, he can't do a lot, but he can at least do this one thing on a very high level. He never really had anything like that. And so it was kind of maybe a little crazy to think, yeah, Jock Peterson, who just put up like all-star numbers with the D-backs, it's crazy to let him walk and elevate a guy who historically has struggled with Arizona, but is coming off a very small sample size where he crushed. Can you really trust those Pavin Smith numbers from 2024? Well, so far, the answer has been a resounding yes, because Pavin Smith has taken that sample size from last year. He's improved on it. I mean, I believe Pavin Smith right now qualifies. Let me just double check because I just have Pavin Smith normal numbers pulled up. But Pavin Smith, technically, does he qualify for the batting title on Fangraphs? It looks like they might have taken him off. He's like always just right there in terms of does he qualify or not. But the Pavin Smith did qualify for any stats. I mean, his WRC plus right now is 202. So among all major leaguers, he would be third behind Aaron Judge and Pete Alonso. Like, that's how good Pavin Smith has been this year. His walk rate is 20%, a 333 average, an OPS over 1100. Like, absolutely insane compared to Jock Peterson, who is a 101 average, a strikeout rate of 25%, and a slug of only 174. Pavin Smith historically has never been able to slug. His career slug entering this year was 419, I believe. And so when you think of Pavin Smith and what he's done throughout his career, the power has never been there. Actually, Pavin Smith does not have a slug 419. His career slug is actually 414. And so when you think about Pavin Smith throughout his career, he's never been a power guy. He's never just had a great offensive skill set. And defensively, we know he's been a struggle as well. But just being the full-time DH for the D-backs as a lefty, he's been able to crush offensively for Arizona. And so you have to give that transaction an A, because I definitely wouldn't have thought Pavin Smith would straight up outplay Jock Peterson in 2025, but that has been true for both him and Josh Naylor. Then the last transaction that we have to talk about from the offseason is that Corbin Burnes signing, because for me, I'm going to have to give it a C+. Burnes hasn't been terrible. He hasn't been bad. It's not like he's been Madison Bumgarner, giving up 5, 6, 7 earned runs. He actually has been very good at managing damage, has not allowed more than 4 earned runs in any start this season, and has only done that one time. He has 2 quality starts. In his most recent one, he still went 5 1/3 and 1 earned run. Like, the numbers are fine for Corbin Burnes. I just haven't been wowed or impressed by him this season, especially considering he's a guy making the most money in franchise history. I just want a little bit more juice out the tube. He's been fine this season, but for a guy making 35, 40 million a year, I want more than fine. I want greatness. I want eliteness. I want a guy who looks like he's in the conversation to win the Cy Young Award. That's what we signed him for. So Corbin Burnes, he hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been exactly elite either. So because of that, I'm going to give him a C plus until he starts to look like a Cy Young candidate. Now we'll talk about the D-backs versus Mets in segment number 3. But first, I want to talk to you guys about Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. My favorite Wonderful Pistachios I actually have right here. Sorry to the audio listeners only. You're going to have to go to YouTube for this one because right next to me, I got 3 of my favorite flavors here. And this is what is great about Wonderful Pistachios. Unsalted right here, no shell. Chili roasted, no shell. And then this one is roasted and salted with the shell. The great thing about Wonderful Pistachios is the variety. You could get salted, unsalted, with shell, no shell. Get a little kick to it if you wanted to. No matter what flavor you want, they have a variety and a profile that fits just for you. So please go get yourself some Wonderful Pistachios. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. And now let's preview the next series, D-backs versus Mets, because this is another series where the D-backs can get some revenge for the season finale shenanigans that we saw in 2024, where the D-backs lost the tiebreaker to both the Mets and the Atlanta Braves, coming down to the final game of the season where we saw a doubleheader, Mets versus Braves. And as you guys know, whoever won that first game was going to kind of forfeit that second game. That's what we saw. But the D-backs have to take accountability for what happened last year and look within the mirror. And so this is a great opportunity to get some revenge on the Mets. You weren't able to do it against Atlanta. Actually gave us kind of the same series that we saw in 2024, where the D-backs, when the D-backs got swept by the Braves of April of last year, there was a couple games where the D-backs were up a bunch of runs and then they blew it late and they lost. We saw a game like that in this series against the Braves as well, right? Eugenio has a 4 home run game and you still lose. Very disappointing to see. But hopefully the D-backs can right their wrongs against the New York Mets. Last year, they had a 4-game road series in New York, went to Citi Field, and they split that series. Feels like D-backs historically, at least the last few years since I've taken over this podcast, it feels like the Mets kind of have the D-backs number. Last year, the D-backs are 3-4 against the Mets, so not as bad typically. So hopefully it's starting to turn around, get a little bit better, because we need to see the D-backs like start to look like the team that we expected entering 2025. We need to see more just top to bottom, just the defense play a little bit better. Offensively, we need the righties to step up. We need the bullpen to be better in high leverage moments. Like just Torey Lovello needs to be a better in-game manager. Like the D-backs really just need to see some clean baseball from their team. The fans would love to see it, and a great opportunity going to New York against the Mets, a very good team where you're going to have to battle the rest of the way. Like this is a series that will have ramifications for the rest of the National League wildcard standings. And so for the D-backs, if you want to prove to yourself that you are a team that's going to be battling for the playoffs for the rest of the year, you have to take care of a series like this against the Mets, a team that you're going to be battling with for one of those wild cards the rest of 2025. These April series matter, and you don't want to start losing these series because you get to game 155, 160, start looking at the standings, start looking at those tiebreakers, and you're like, man, we lost the tiebreaker to the Mets because of a series that happened back in April. All these series matter, and so we're going to need the D-backs to step up in this series. Last year, when they went to Citi Field, they had 25 RBIs. They had 7 home runs in those 4 games. But the issue is 14 of those RBIs and 5 of those home runs came from Ketel Marte, Jock Peterson, and Christian Walker. As of right now, I've not heard anything about Ketel Marte returning this series against the Mets. And we know Jock Peterson and Christian Walker are not walking back to that door. So Who is stepping up in this series to replace that production? One guy I'm taking a look at is Randall Grichuk. Will Torey Lovullo look at him? I don't know. But one guy I'm taking a look at is Randall Grichuk because in that road series last year, he was 3 for 6 against the Mets. And in his career against David Peterson, who we're seeing in game one, he's 5 for 10. So Grichuk, so far, when you look at the sample size against the Mets last year on the road and against David Peterson, 2 check marks on the boxes of good production for Grichuk. So I want to see if Torey Lovullo potentially gives him a look in that series with a lefty on the mound. I mean, you would assume he should be in the lineup for Pavin Smith, David Peterson lefty. I would assume Randall Grichuk is in the lineup for Pavin Smith, but considering Pavin Smith has been playing pretty well recently, maybe Torey Lovullo doesn't even look at the historic stats. But I would be pretty surprised if Torey doesn't go with a platoon split with a lefty on the mound. Also, we're going to need, because there's a lefty on the mound, we're going to need to see the righty step up. It's been a big struggle for the righties in the offense. Whenever there's a righty on the mound, Pavin, Corbin Carroll, Josh Naylor, they're going off. Perdomo's been solid. Alec Thomas has had a good start to the season. Like, the lefties are doing their job for the D-backs. It's the righties who need to step up. Lourdes Gurriel, 2 for 5 in his career against David Peterson. Maybe it's a big Gurriel or Randall Grichuk night in game one. Gurriel does have hits in 3 of his last 4 games. Is he heating up? No, just throwing out the question. But for the D-backs, when you look at their pitcher on the mound in Erod, I might go on FanDuel and place a little wager on the D-backs money line, maybe do some overs on Erod because his numbers against the Mets players are actually very good in his career. Pete Alonso, 0 for 6 with 3 strikeouts against Erod. Francisco Lindor, 4 for 19 in his career with a couple strikeouts, 1 double, no home runs, no RBIs. Like Starling Marte, 2 for 8, 3 strikeouts. Brandon Nimmo, 1 for 8, no home runs, no doubles, no RBIs, 3 strikeouts. Like all the stars on this Mets team have kind of struggled historically against Erod. The one guy Erod really hasn't faced is Juan Soto, who on paper is the guy that you would feel like is the scariest, but so far this season hasn't exactly looked like Juan Soto. So I'm feeling pretty good about Erod going into this matchup. Now, the one thing is Erod has been a strikeout machine this year, but the Mets are like the D-backs where they don't really strike out, have great patience. And so we know Erod is not afraid to attack the strike zone. This might be a game where he's pitching more to contact, and we actually need the defense to step up. He might be feeding the defense, inducing some fly balls, inducing some ground balls. We know Erod's got that sinker in his back pocket. So if he is attacking the strike zone with that sinker and generating contact for the defense to make plays, we know the defense has been struggling recently, making a lot of errors. We're going to need to see it step up, especially in game one against the New York Mets. And this whole series against the Mets for a team that doesn't really strike out, that means you're going to need your defense to be on lock in this series. April 2024 was a huge reason the D-backs missed the playoffs last year because of losing series like the Atlanta Braves, like we just discussed. And so I'm looking at this series as one that really matters to the D-backs. Some people like to put comments in the YouTube section saying, stop complaining. It's only April. We're not even 40 games into the season. I don't trust those people. I don't understand people who are okay just handing over wins. We saw last year how every win matters and how you could look up at the end of the season and say, man, that series in April really came back to hurt us. So I'm hoping the D-backs get their revenge against the New York Mets in this series starting tomorrow. Or I guess at the time you guys are listening to this podcast, starting today. That's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.